I think that's why Trump got elected. He's a no middle ground guy.
Right.
So where we are, I think, Phil, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're beyond a certain point in this country, in this state, where talking in a political fashion and not addressing real issues doesn't connect with real Americans. He's not a politician. You're not a politician.
Right.
I think that's what you have in common, and I think that's why we love you so much for the state of Utah.
Yeah.
Phil Lyman, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause.
Thank you.
Candidate for governor in the state of Utah, the next governor in the state of Utah, we hope. So what do you think? He's straight shooter. You're a straight shooter. Have you had any pushback on your approach of just telling it like it is?
Yeah, it was funny. This last week, I got a call from somebody who's kind of in a position of authority and said, "Hey, you need to pull back the rhetoric on the internet." And I said, I rarely even get on social media myself. I've got people that post a few things, and I said, I can't pull back the rhetoric because I'm not in charge of that. Spencer Cox properly identified us as populists, and that's what Trump is. And he did it in a derogatory way. Yeah, those aren't conservatives; those are populists. Well, populists are the opposite of the elite. The populists we're the plebs. We're the ones that are saying we don't like what we're seeing here. We don't like being told, what to teach our kids and
what pronouns to use,
or what our pronouns should be, or our health
new ways
measures.
of speaking.
All of these things, and so you see that coming down, and it is the populist movement, and it is a movement, and it's nationwide, and it's happening everywhere. So you could no more like have one person step up and say, "Hey, everybody, let's disagree better from now on. Let's all use, nice terms when we talk to each other." They have this new dignity index, and they're checking whether you swear or whether you.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So
I bet my index is rather low.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So,
by the way, TMP or Todd in the background. Say, "Hey, Todd."
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Stay delicate. Along those lines, you're talking about, hey, pull back the rhetoric. That's what they're telling you. The thing they don't understand about the populist movement is if, let's say, a candidate, and I'm not putting this on you or anyone else, let's say a candidate goes, "You know what? I will pull back the rhetoric. I will start talking the way you want me to talk." They're a sellout. And the people who are aware immediately will abandon that person and they'll find someone else.
Right.
So you just lost your support.
you lost your support.
Yeah.
Hopefully you lose your support because that's what.
Right.
That's because and people's antennas are up. They're waiting. They're waiting to see who is actually going to take a stand, and who is going to tell the truth. And as soon as you say, "Well, I will back off if you'll let me have this position, or if you'll let me,"
right?
Then all right. Now you have signaled that you're willing to go
to compromise
into the swamp. Yes, I'd rather be a leader in the swamp than a truth teller.
Would you?
That's what they're saying. I wouldn't.
That is a great observation. Would you say, and it's fair to say that most politicians are in that era, or I'm sorry, in that arena where they want to maintain power and they do whatever they have to do it, and say pretty much whatever they have to do it.
Politics is really a tricky business because it is a world of influence, and so you're trying to make friends. You're trying to
right.
You don't want to go and just make everybody angry. No. You can't just go out and burn it.
And
all
I want to visit that here in a second.
Yeah. So as popular as that might be to be a flamethrower, a grenade launcher.
It turns a lot of people off.
You do have to articulate what it is that's important and what's happening, societally. And if you can identify that, if you can honestly identify that, and it's truth, people say, I like hearing the truth, and then you try to persuade. Honestly, you try to persuade other politicians. And I would say, you said, are most politicians on the other side? Like 95% of them.
There you go. That's what I think most of us feel. Right. The people watching this video, my audience members, they know this. It's not a secret. And you can see this because they run as conservatives, which, by the way, Cox kind of does, right? Because now he's courting the endorsement of Trump, who is a populist. Cox is not a populist. Would you agree with that? Or you don't have to answer that if you want to.
Oh, he would recoil if you said he was a populist. He is not a populist.
Yeah. Okay, so
he despises the populists.
He's a swamper.
Well,
you don't have to say that. I will.
Yeah.
You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean,
Cox is a swamper. Todd, back me up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He didn't say it. I did.
If you go and look at his victory speech, which happened minutes after the polls closed, and somebody said, "What do you say to the conservative?" He said, "They're not conservatives; they're populists." It's like, okay, so I guess he's the conservative and we're the populists. I don't know.
Very interesting you would say that, because that's what I see from the Republican Party as a whole, is that they have stratified the party into, we're the conservative people who really get along with the left, and then everybody else is extreme right. And Todd, did he not say that in the convention, Cox? Yeah. That he called people who were for you, what?
Right-wing extremists.
Right-wing extremists. And this is dovetailing to what you just said, is that this is what we see from the Republicans, is that they are constantly stratifying their own voter base instead of just going, what do the people want? How do we represent our group of voters?
I mean, I will say this, not to be derogatory, but when a person kind of commits themselves to being more of a follower than a leader, it's not that they're dishonest, but they do betray themselves. They say stuff that's like, why would you say that out loud? And it's because they're not leading. They're not even in charge of their own words that are coming out of their mouth. They're responding. They're reacting to everything around them, and that's what, sadly, that's what we see with Spencer Cox. Is he
licks his finger, puts it up to the wind. Which way is the wind blowing?
He owes people. He owes people for the position that he's in. He owes the autocracy. Yeah, you can call it the establishment. It's kind of an autocracy in Utah. They put you there. They expect certain things, and when you show up, you bow. You do your deep curtsy to the establishment.
Now, wait a second. We're in the great state of Utah currently, and you're saying that politics are not pure in the great state of Utah? No way, Phil. No way that can be. Wait a second. We're sitting here with a man who has dealt with Utah politics probably in a sense that most others haven't. Can you summarize that for audience members who don't know your background, how you stood up for states' rights and how you paid a price? Listen to this.
Okay, that's a big question. It's got a lot there, but yeah.
Give me the Reader's Digest.
Well, I was a county commissioner. Before I was a county commissioner, I was just a CPA. Still am a CPA. I've got my business, and I love that part of my life. In a small town, rural Utah, watching the mineral extraction go away, then watching the grazing and the logging and everything else on public lands go away. And what I've said is, once they take away all of your productive industries off public lands, saying, well, you can replace this with tourism, recreation. Those are great industries. Once you give up all your productive industries, they come and say, we really don't like recreation and tourism either.
And it happens on federal lands.
Yeah, and they cut it off, and they start closing roads, and they start raiding your community, as they did my community of Blanding. And that's really what motivated me. In 2009, I watched the federal raid come down on good people, innocent people. People that had their lives destroyed, and you say, why would somebody create a policy that would just like
shell out that
what's
community?
The word? Yeah,
shell it out. It's eviscerate it.
Yeah,
it's like a fish. You just reach in and pull everything out that makes that community.
Yeah,
it's the heart and soul of that community, and by the way, related to jobs and livelihoods in that community. But they're out of state. They don't care. They're federal government.
Yeah. So
they couldn't care less.
People will say, "Oh, Phil is jaded and he's upset and he's gonna." No, I want to know the answer to that. Why would they do that? Why would they make those policies? So you start asking that question, and you get in and you find the big environmentalists, the big special interest groups that are pushing to get people in judgeships, pushing to get politicians in place, influencing elections. They put in big lobbyist groups. And now we get to Utah, where you've got all of these environmentalist organizations. And when I say environmentalists, I don't mean people who like the environment. I mean people who have accepted an ideology. It's a religion of the earth. before people, whatever it is. It's like cellular government.
And I think it goes deeper, and I think my audience members, I don't know who else will watch this, I hope it gets a broad audience. My audience members realize that the Green New Deal is nothing about green. It's nothing about the environment. It's about political control of resources and controlling the economy. It's just wrapped up in the auspices, hey, we care about the little turtle over there in the creek. It's a lie. It's a lie. Now, there are true environmentalists. I'm one of them myself. I love taking care of the environment. I know you do too. Mm-hmm. But we are shunned and pushed aside for this huge corporatized environmental movement that is really not. It's actually an economic movement to restrict travel, to control travel. I'm getting on one of my rants again. Phil, take it away. Sorry.
Well, I mean, in my quest to understand these things, I read a book. Eleanor Ostrom wrote a book called "Governing the Commons," and basically she got a Nobel Prize for it. And it says that people closest to the effect of the decision should be the ones making decisions. Pretty simple.
Yes.
It's kind of like America.
That's how the Constitution was done.
And you say, well, why is that not happening? And it's because of collusion and because of money and because of lobbyists. And so I saw it as a county commissioner firsthand and the effects on the ground. Ran for the state legislature. And the first thing I encountered at the state legislature is a really robust lobbying, backdoor policy making apparatus that should not be the case. And then you see the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and the governor forming committees to draft legislation, and it's top down. It's like, oh, this is coming from the governor's office. It's
not coming from the people.
It's not coming from the people.
And you say it's backdoor, that means it's hidden from the voter.
Right.
So it's not, then maybe perhaps, and I have my own sources at the Capitol, I already know this to be the case, that they will say something publicly to assuage the voter. And then when the door's closed, something completely different happens. And that's in the state of Utah.
Yes. Yeah. And why does that happen? Because there are deals being cut that benefit people in a really huge way. Why would Utah embrace high-density housing?
Thank you.
It's a good question, right?
My wife, by the way, Mrs. Nutton Fancy, say hello. She's over there. She rants about this all the time, and I back her up 100% every time she does.
So yeah, you say, why would we do that? It's not organic. It's not what Utah wants. It's not what families
changes
want.
the face of Utah. Changes what we're about, how we look, our traffic problems.
And then you go back through. You start following that back through the National Governors Association, back to the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, and when we pass bills, when we get these bills coming top down and say, we want to centralize control of all the water because you can't manage what you can't control. Mm-hmm. Well, you go back to the UN and they say you can't control what you can't measure. That's what they say, measure. And then they have this program at the United Nations, which is measure every drop. We have a carbon footprint.
That's where that came from.
Yeah.
It's coming to Utah. I've talked to farmers here.
Oh, it's in you. No, it's done. Oh. It's done. We
the farmers I talk to are furious about that.
Anybody that has their eyes open is furious about that.
Remember that?
And
wow.
so
that came from the UN. That was a UN-born mindset. Count every drop. You have to be accountable, and we'll tell you when you can stop using it.
You've got a water footprint. You've got a carbon footprint. You have a protein footprint soon enough.
Yeah.
And so when those things come, you say, well, where did this come from? Did the farmers bring this? I did a spoof. I sent something out. I said, I am sick and tired of these wealthy farmers coming up and telling developers how to manage their resources. It's like because it's the opposite. It's like you got all of this money, all of this development apparatus, and they're coming up and they're taking over the water. Now, why would you want to take over the water in Utah?
Because you control people.
You control everything.
You control the economy. You control everything.
You cannot build a subdivision if you don't have the water rights. And so we say, well, we need the state to control the water rights. Well, you look behind who's pushing that legislation. Again, it's not organic. It's not the state. It is large development interests. They built 1,900 homes out here on the side of the valley. None of them for sale. They're all already bought by corporations. I don't know if it's BlackRock or some extension of BlackRock, but
Vanguard.
Yeah, those types of things are not. They're not what a community would say. In an ideal world, we would have high-density housing all owned by corporations, and we would all rent. But that's somebody's ideal world, and it's being pushed.
I want to get back to your battle that you had, though, and we'll summarize that. But I want to pause right here and interject this. is that people in Utah and everywhere in this country need to wake the heck up immediately, because what you are describing right there is a loss of autonomy for a state, that a state actually becomes controlled by I'll just call it the cabal or the star chamber. It's not controlled by the people. People have lost control, and I feel like that we're on the precipice right now of losing control of our state. We kind of control it now, but we keep electing these morons like Cox that are in the pocket of these special interests. And I think it will get to the point we can never elect in the future any true conservative, that it will be done. And then our future will be lockstep in line with this globalist movement.
Right. I mean, I would call it communism.
It is communism.
It is communism.
Yeah, it's Marxist.
It's been retooled for the 21st century, and
they don't call it that. They'll package it differently.
No, but we are, and what did they tell us back in the Cold War when we were kids? You know, when we take communism, it'll be from the inside. It's not going to come from the outside.
Yeah.
It's not, Russia isn't going to conquer the United States. We are adopting these policies, and we talk about our pronouns and our gender fluidity and all these things. This is not stuff that there's not Utah things that just pop up and somebody says one day.
That's not a Utah value at all.
It's not, and it's not a family value. So
it's not a Kansas value. It's not a Wyoming value. It's not a Montana value. And in a lot of ways, I don't think it's a California value, because I spend a lot of time in California, and I go to the northern part of the state, I go to the eastern part of the state, and they're just like us. They are furious that they're not in control of their state and that they have no voice. That's our future in Utah.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I talk about personhood, which is also an American core value that.
Yeah, individuality.
Yeah. Inalienable rights.
Yeah.
By virtue of our existence, we have inalienable rights, and that's personhood. If you respect personhood, then you respect parenthood, and you respect a person's choice to do something. Maybe they want to live a different lifestyle. Maybe they've got something that they're trying to
do it.
Do it.
That's part of individuality.
That's personhood. But you have to stay in your lane, and that's what.
And you don't come over to the populace and go, by the way, you're going to live the way I live now.
Yeah.
And I think true conservatives have always seen it that way. Whether you're talking about the gay issue, whatever, we're always like, okay, live your life, be who you are, but don't come to me and my family and start passing legislation saying I have to adopt your way of life. Yeah. Is that what you're touching on, or no?
Yeah. So from a policy standpoint, you've got government that is pushing mass things because they don't respect personhood, they don't respect parenthood.
Yeah.
So they don't understand statehood. They don't understand that the federal government has a lane that they're supposed to stay in. They don't understand the division between the executive branch and the legislative branch.
Right.
They basically, they might flash the Constitution around, but they don't understand They don't understand what freedom is.
They don't understand separation of powers and why that's so important.
Right. Yeah.
Like our forefathers did.
That Constitution was put in place to preserve the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, and they don't. That's the part that inherently they're not thinking that way. They're thinking about how can I thrive in this environment. But.
Go back to your battle, though.
Okay.
And tell them what happened. And let me put Phil more in here. Scoot over here, Phil, because you're the center of attention, not me. I want to be over here on the sideline. Go ahead, bro. Okay, so you're in this battle. You realize that they are taking resources. You're seeing the future is bleak for these rural counties, and you do what?
So October of 2013, October 1st, they shut down the government. Federal government shut down. They shut down Lake Powell. They shut down Arches. They shut down natural bridges. I'm down in the middle of all these things. I called the director of Aramark out at Lake Powell, Hall's Crossing, and I said, "Hey, you don't have to shut down. You're a private company. You have a concession contract." And then I realized he was weeping on the phone. He was crying. He said, "Phil, don't call me and tell me this. I just laid off 300 people, and this is a serious thing to them. This is when they make the money to get through the winter, and we just laid them off 1st of October." And so I went and I said, "Well, we're going to open it up." And I was on the phone with I don't want to get too long on this, but I was on the phone with some people in D.C. And I'd said, we're going to open up Lake Powell and natural bridges. And the sheriff's office has said that they're willing to go out and kind of help people. And it's just water, And the guy said, we're not turning, in DC, he said, well, we're not turning this over to a bunch of Boy Scouts. So I walked out of the meeting and I called the Scoutmaster and I said, get the Boy Scouts ready. We're going to.
Nice.
And we're opening up natural bridges. And we're going to do a Friends of Scouting fundraiser at the same time. We can show people around bridges and get a donation for, support our scout troop. And it hit the news, and Governor Herbert called and said, please give me a couple of days. And anyway, the state stepped in and bailed out the federal government $15 million that they paid them to basically do what they should be doing anyway, and what they're already getting paid to do. All of that led to a town hall meeting, and I said, we're getting steamrolled. We're going to have a national monument. That's what it was. This was always about, a national monument. I said, we're going to get a national monument. That's a foregone conclusion. The narrative will be that we were supportive of it and that we wanted that. And do we want that? No, we do not want that. Then we need to make some noise. Someone said we should do a protest. They said, let's do it in Recapture Canyon, which is on the edge of Blanding. It's like, so I said, all right, sounds good. Called the BLM the next day and said, hey, we're doing a protest in Recapture, May 10th. Wanted you to know. This is like 5 months before that happened. And then we negotiated back and forth for 5 months. And they said, go ahead. Have your event, have your celebration. No one's going to get arrested. We're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. Well, 5 months after the event, I get a call from, not from the U.S. Attorney's Office, but from the Salt Lake Tribune saying, how do you feel about being prosecuted federally? I said, I'll have to get back to you. I don't know. It was 11 days from the time I got the phone call.
Look at this. The feds went after him.
Yeah, till I got the notice in the mail, and I told my wife, I said, "Don't worry about this. This is just saber rattling. This is just, them trying to."
Hold on. Did you get a lawyer at that time? As soon as you got that notification, did you get a lawyer? Did you get legal representation?
Within a few days.
What was his take on it? Nonsense.
No, he said you're going to jail.
And he was right.
Yeah. He said you are the. In fact,
was he saying you're fighting Goliath here?
He said take no comfort in the fact that you're innocent. This is federal court, and it makes no difference. And I said I thought he was being cynical. I found out after. I mean, it was very, very true. And we put up a good argument.
Well, the facts are on your side.
Yeah.
That you contacted BLM, you got prior permission, but none of that played.
All of it's on the record.
They don't care.
They don't care.
So
I went to jail. Yeah.
He went to jail. So for pushing against federal actions in rural portions in the state of Utah, and he went over just some of the details. You can guys look it up if you want more. Jailed. So you want to see the future of conservatives? You're seeing it right here, ladies and gentlemen. The reason they want to take Phil Lyman out is because he's a leader. He represents the people, and as such, he represents a threat to the overall arching globalism push for all states, not just state of Utah, for all states. And notice what he said. He's like, we have the facts on our side, we have prior permission, but none of that played in federal court because he was guilty the day he showed up. True or false?
True.
Okay, so where's justice in that? Where is, the scales of justice? They're like this. And I still think they're this way. If you look at people in J6, like this, people that didn't do anything, they're in Gitmo.
Yeah.
They're in Gitmo right now.
Well, and the process is the punishment. That's I ended up getting 10 days. They wanted 2 years.
Did you make any shivs while you're in prison? And do you use toothbrushes to do that? Do you have any prison lingo? Dude, I know it's just 10 days, but surely you came out with some good stuff, dude. Do you have any special contacts?
I learned how to buy crack in Las Vegas.
Oh, so, in 10 days? Yeah. Imagine what you could have done in a year.
Honestly, I was in there. They put me in maximum security, of course.
Oh my God. Why?
I think honestly it was a favor to me, so it wasn't in general population, which would have been fine too. But in that maximum security, you're locked down for 18 hours a day. You go out for a break here, you go out for a break there. The lights are on 24 hours a day. So I had ordered a couple of books. You can't bring any books with you, but you can order them, and if they show up. So I got. I read Hamilton. I don't know if you've ever read Hamilton. It's a good book.
I don't read.
I read that. I really don't either. But
I do, but I heard good things.
I read that. Yeah, I read that. Cover to cover. I read probably 3 other books. In that 10 days.
Okay, so hold on, Phil. So you're in jail. Were you angry? How did you deal with this? Because didn't you
was-
feel like that you had done things correctly and that here you are a martyr? Did you feel that way?
You get to a point. I mean, like I say, the process is the punishment. So we spent roughly $400,000 on attorneys.
Oh my gosh.
And that was my money. You know, that's not donated money. That's like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm spending a ton of money here. And then you get to a certain point where it's like, I don't know. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I'm not going to.
That's why he needs to be the governor,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. Right there. Do you see that? That after getting there, he's not scared. He's not intimidated. That everything that they tried to do with him did not work. That's how you and I need to be. We need to be that way. Okay? Leader and a man of the people. This is not a politician. That's why you're on my camera.
Well, thank you.
You're not a
Thank you.
politician.
Thanks.
You're just a dude from Utah who has the state's interests, the best interests at heart. Oh, let me tell you this. I'm going to give you an example. So I always use pilot stuff, right? Because I'm a pilot, right? So when we have a B-17 formation, it takes off out of England, and I'm trying to think of the exact squadron this happened to, but whatever reason, they got their coordinates wrong, and they were supposed to go bomb this one place. Okay, and it's a formation of, I don't know how many bombers, like 60. They don't get any flak. There's like a little bit as they come over the coast of France, but boom, boom, boom. And one of the navigators like, shouldn't we be shot at right now? They weren't shot at because why? They weren't over the right target. You are over the right target.
Right.
You're catching major flack. You've caught major flack. Trump catches major flack because it hits the truth. And the truth is not accepted today. They don't want you to tell the truth to the people. They want lies. They want you to just pull the veil over people's eyes. Would you think that's what's going on?
Yeah, and they want you to think that resistance is futile.
Yeah.
They really do. It's like, well, whatever you do, this is just the system we're living in. Especially when you get into onto the political team, it's like, I hear you, I agree with you. Oh, I feel the same way you do, but we, you know,
I call it the sucking of air through teeth. They go, I know, Phil, but yeah, buddy, I really get where you're coming from, but here's how it really works up here.
Yeah.
And Capitol Hill.
one of my favorite legislators, Mark Roberts. I got in there the first day, and he said, "You've heard about the butt caucus?" And I said, "No, the butt caucus."
I heard about that,
Yeah.
but I don't
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
like-
the same thing you're talking about. Keep going.
There may be two of them. I don't know. But
We're
this
not
one was.
gonna
This
go
one
there.
was. You know,
This is a family show, ladies and gentlemen. Just family. Just relax.
it's like, you know, I agree with the Second Amendment, but
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Here comes the asterisk.
yeah, but
We
need
should
to
have
some
limitations.
some red flag
Yeah.
laws. It makes sense. I agree with the Constitution, but you know, privacy gives people a chance to do things they shouldn't do. I don't know. So
And you mentioned the sheriff's department and how they helped you in this when you did this thing. Let's say that Kamala wins. Okay, she wins. That the leftists, let's say they take both houses of Congress too, which is completely possible. And I say if Americans don't wake up, it will happen. I say, Todd and I have talked, Mrs. Nutton Fancy and I have talked, my viewers and I have talked, that the plan B are the sheriffs. Because after Sandy Hook and that horrible shooting that happened, the sheriff's departments, I don't know if you remember this, but they actually across the nation, they said, listen, if it was at the time they were considering universal background checks, and basically it's just a backdoor to confiscation. It was the first step. And they go, listen, we will not do that in our county. We don't care. And if the feds roll into our county to harass members of our county, we will be an armed force standing and defending our people. Now, I don't want to put you on the spot because this is a heavy issue, but do you think that's a feasible way that we would preserve in some measure the Constitution?
yeah, I mean, it is the design of government by and for the people. Is that the sheriff is he's the only law enforcement person who's politically accountable, the one that you can say, I don't like what you did.
Right.
We're going to elect a different sheriff, and it's vital. I love county government.
I do too.
County commissioner, and I think that is the
Big fan.
yeah. So county level government is the is the solution. But they've got to be educated, and sheriffs have to be educated. I was just Sheriff Richard Mack called me on my way over here just before I drove up.
He owes me some money, by the way, but that's a different issue.
I'll bring it up. Good, a good sheriff, a constitutional sheriff's association, and a lot of sheriffs have to be careful. It's like, well, do I want to be part of the constitutional sheriff's association? Because of the connotation, and that connotation isn't coming from the people; it's coming from the people above them.
The threatenings.
Yeah, it's coming from the establishment, from the cabal. Saying this is not. This doesn't conform to our vision of kind of the world order that we are hoping to establish. So sheriffs are vital. Yeah, they're everything.
So I think their message will go again to how they've stratified conservatives, and that a true constitutional conservative, if I can speak, is considered an extremist in their mind. And this is what they sell it to. This is what they sold the entire Jan 6 movement as, even though the vast majority of people at Jan 6 just went and they said, we just want some answers to what happened in this election. It wasn't a violent protest. Kamala's running out there acting like they were armed. They were not armed. Had they been armed, they would have known it. That would be a completely different thing, but it wasn't.
Right.
But I think they've stratified, and these sheriffs, for instance, they're saying, listen, don't go to this dark side over here. Don't become a populist. Don't become a constitutionalist. If you want to have money funneled to your county, if you don't want harassment, if you don't want legal problems from the state of Utah suing your county, you better go along to get along. And that's where we are in this, what I consider a cold civil war.
Well, and then you get someone like Spencer Cox. He has a reputation for dishing out punishment to people who didn't support him.
There you go.
So he really raises the stakes, and people are going like, I want to take this down, but if this doesn't work, we're toast. We're never going to get anything good after this. And he's going to come after me personally. He's going to come after my community. Mm-hmm. If you're a county commissioner, it's like, oh, there goes all my funding for my county. And so it creates this dilemma for all these people. Do I fight for what I know to be right, or do I stay, in the system? Stay in the system and get, lock arms. Let's do this. And in their minds, in the politicians' mind, they are smart. They know how the game's played. They see it. I was talking to one of my colleagues last night, and he said, "I'm not naive to what's going on, but
Does anyone talk honestly to you on Capitol Hill? Do you ever go behind closed doors that you know there's not a bugging device in there, and they go, "Listen, Phil, let's talk," and you feel like you have some allies up there? Are there people like that?
I mean,
or do you feel like most of them are doing as you're describing right here? They're just going along to get along.
I've kind of earned the privilege, I guess, of speaking frankly to people.
Yeah.
So if they say, hey,
tell those guys.
Yeah. If you would come in and sit down and talk, I know they're not wanting me to come in and say, oh, I love the program, I love what you're doing, and I just come in and say, hey, this is what I've observed, this is my problems, and I want to see changes. And then we talk about. Yeah. It usually turns into a little talk about compromise. Well, what could we do short of what you want to see happen? And that's I guess that's leverage in itself. But for them to say, yeah, let's repeal SB 54 and get our convention system back in place. No, they're not going to talk about in those terms. It's like, how can we nuance this so that we can still have SB 54, so we don't upset the cabal, and we can have, it's like.
Let me say this, and this will probably surprise some of my viewers, is that I think one of the powers of Ronald Reagan was his ability to build consensus. Is that he was a principled guy. He had hardcore, non-compromising principles. I think most of us, and I lived in the era of Reagan, I didn't meet him personally, but I lived during that era, and I could see what he was. I thought he was a great president. Like most politicians or presidents, he had faults. I mean, everyone has faults. I mean, JFK was getting BJs from Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, I said that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because I don't want people to think that politicians, these people have to be perfect. Moving along. Sorry about that, Phil.
Yeah.
He was. But we look at JFK as an awesome president. True or false?
True.
He was a Democrat, but he was not perfect. And my point in saying this, though, is that as constitutional conservatives, and that's what I consider myself. My viewers are mostly that. We will have to stand strong on principle. But and if I was to give a fault to Trump, is that he does give hard truths. He's good about delivering that, but I think he lacks at that consensus building. I think there are people that are not really on the left that have been offended by his way of being, his way of talking, what he says. I get all that. Us hardcore conservatives are like, rah, rah, rah. We love that because finally someone's saying it the way it really is. He's cutting through the chaff. He's giving crap to the media, which we love because the media, I call them the Communist Party feeds, the CPF. Mm-hmm. They have an agenda. They have a propaganda. They push and push. And Trump pushes against that. But at the same time, a leader, as you mentioned, you alluded to this, a leader needs to reach out. And even though you don't compromise on your principles, you package them in a manner that brings enlightenment. I think you could do that to the state of Utah. You have that personality that principled, but kind, love people, and listen, this is why we need to go this way. Let me teach you what's going to happen if we don't go this way. Let me paint a picture for you. That's a leader's job.
Right.
We're lacking that. We're lacking that in Congress. We're lacking that. Our leaders, Biden and Harris, they're horrible. They're not that way at all. All they do is foment division, racial division, economic division. And that is where they derive their power structure from, is that if the people are fomented, angry, disunified, they can push their agenda. And that's exactly what's happened.
4 years ago when Spencer Cox was pushing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I don't dislike diversity. I don't dislike inclusion. It's like those words mean something different to us now than they did 4 years ago because we see that it was a program. It's like this was not about diversity. It was not about equity. It was not about inclusion. It was a program. And so where people were 4 years ago, they've shifted. They see the media differently.
They've seen the damage of DEI.
They've seen DEI. They've seen the gender fluidity. They've seen the COVID nonsense and the
which Cox was 100% behind.
All of those things.
Yeah, mask up, bro. Backs up, safe and effective.
Before he took office, he signed the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Compact and said we are going to do this. Now he got $1 billion nearly for
really.
Yeah, it was
for doing that.
It was contingent. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was
Hold on. When you say he got it, was his a campaign that got it?
No, it was the governor's office. It went straight to the governor's office.
And they can use it however they want?
It's the ESSER funds, the Elementary School and Secondary Education Relief Funds. So when we're out telling kids, you have to wear a mask, otherwise you're going to kill grandma and grandpa. What it was, you go back to the documents, and that was a condition of getting the ESSER funds is that kids have to stay in mask to the end of the school year. So
hold on. So are we talking about the COVID issue or the DI issue when he got those funds?
So
was it the COVID compliance with the mandates of COVID?
You get the ESSER funds conditioned on that 10% of that is spent to implement DEI in your state. So $1 billion, $100 million to implement DEI in your state. So when he says, as the COVID czar, as the lieutenant governor, and the newly elected governor, hasn't taken office yet, I'm going to sign the compact for DEI. All of this is connected to, I made some deals. The deals I made were you give us $1 billion, I'll spend $100 million of it promoting DEI.
Yep.
And the condition of us getting that, the kids stay in masks. We push vaccinations. We find companies who don't have a mask mandate. We support them if they want to.
We close small businesses.
Close small businesses across the board. But the point being that people at the time were like, well, this could be really serious. We could all die by next week if we don't do it.
A lot of us didn't have footing. We didn't know.
Yeah,
we didn't know.
And so we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but now that people are finding out, they're more inclined to reject the government's narrative, which is a beautiful thing. I think it's a great thing.
Well, let me ask you this, though. In the state of Utah, so you were on the primary election, right?
Yeah.
You should have won.
I shouldn't have had a primary. That's
great. Okay, thank you.
The privilege you get for getting over 60% at convention.
Okay, sorry.
Is you go straight to the general.
Okay.
That's the bylaws.
And yet for you, it did not happen.
No, because they said, well, Spencer got signatures, so you have to have a primary. It's like, well, I didn't choose. I didn't choose to go the signature route. I choose to go the convention route. I won the convention, and that's where the party folded.
They didn't back you up, though, did they?
No, they did not back.
So they
up.
backed up the cabal.
Yeah.
They backed up the
Right.
status quo, which is Cox.
Yes.
Let me tell the viewers this, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys don't know, Cox, in order to have this primary process occur, went and gathered, we'll just call them signatures. But Phil Lyman has tried to find out, where did these signatures come from? What he's
Do they
petitioned
exist?
the records for these signatures. Do these exist? I have heard tell that people were door knocking and getting signatures saying, hey, just sign this if you intend to vote in November. They did not know that they were signing a petition for Cox to be on the ballot. And that is anecdote. But I don't doubt it, knowing what I know about the state of Utah, how they run. So that in itself is kind of indicative of the corrupt process that we have, right?
Right.
And that you've been stonewalled ever since. And have you? Because I follow you on Instagram, and you're posting like, "Hey, this is what I did to petitions." They said no. They said no. I've ran it up here. You've tried every legal avenue trying to get remuneration on this, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah. And
Pay $15, remember, per signature.
Oh, that's right. So there was a
Yeah.
monetary thing that these people who went door to door were getting $15 per signature.
A little aggressive.
Again, anecdotally, non-confirmed by my half, but they went to Cox, and they were actually signing to get Cox on the ballot.
And I don't believe he's got 28,000 legitimate.
And that's what
signatures.
you're petitioning for.
And-
Show me
and-
the evidence, right?
And it'd be one thing if I was questioning, a senator's signatures or something else, but I'm questioning the governor's signatures, and why that's important is because it's the governor and the lieutenant governor who oversee the whole process.
Right.
So it's like you have to show. And also, this is a trigger word for establishment Republicans now. When you say signature, it's like, oh, he said signature. He wants to see the signatures. Like, okay.
Oh, really?
I want to validate.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's like
That's the new code word of you being an extremist kook.
signature, because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, he wants to see my signature.
He
It's
wants to see the
I
receipts.
wanna
He's
see
doubting me.
I want to see the list of people who sign these petitions. I
Yeah.
want to see the signature packets, and I want to see if it looks like the same person signed 8 signatures on one page, or if there's photocopies as part of that. All of these things, and I'm a CPA. It's really
You know about signatures.
I mean, you just
It's your life.
You just say, well, how could I verify this? Well, maybe I reconcile it with what this other clerk did. So that's what we brought up. We said, well, in Washington County, the signatures were verified at the county level, and a high-profile senator failed to qualify because after the company said, we've got all your signatures, the clerk said, oh, no, these are wrong. Some of them are
Yeah.
forged. And so they had a criminal investigation.
Isn't that what's going on nationwide, though?
Yeah, so
if
that-
we were to step back and look at it in a macro sense, that we're just looking at to purify and keep pure our voting process, that people are who they say they are, that we have voter ID, and all those are pushed against and
Yeah.
derided by the left
Right.
and the rhinos.
So a logical thing would say, well, okay, if the state guy that verified signatures did the same signatures that they did in Washington County, could we just compare those two and see if the same ones were disqualified?
It makes total sense.
Doesn't it? And it's like,
No. He's out.
yeah.
The umpire.
That's exactly-
This is what's happened. Is you slid into home plate. 2 seconds later, the guy comes up and goes, Oh, I'm sorry, I did that. That's saying, you're out. That's what happened to you.
It is.
It's like, wait a second. I came in 2 seconds ago, and you're calling me out now. It's got to be frustrating.
And like you say, with the being over the target and the flack,
you get a ton of flack, dude.
It's recently that we've really seen it ramp up by the establishment, which is interesting because it's like the primary's over. We're running as a write-in candidate, and the narrative there is you have no chance as a write-in candidate. You can't. Then
What do we have to lose?
then why are you all coming out of the woodwork to just
Yeah.
come at us on this stuff? And it's
true.
we do have a campaign, and I think it's going to be successful myself.
Okay, so for you guys not in the state of Utah, I hope you've found this interesting because it's probably very similar to your state politics. True or false, Todd?
True.
This is a nationwide thing we're talking about. It's not just in Utah. It's not just in Wyoming. Well, actually, I don't know about Wyoming, but it's everywhere. This is a sickness that has spread across the entire United States to turn us into a globalist, slave-controlled people. That's for lack of a better term. So pay attention to what's going on here. Now, this is a state election. Normally, in my previous videos, I said, hey, write in. I think on a national level, I think it's like a shot to Mercury. You know, it's really difficult. But in a state, can you imagine if we elected you via a write-in process? What kind of message that would send internationally, not just nationally? If we got Phil Lyman elected through a write-in process, that's you watching this, you spreading this video, you talking, and that's what we're doing. Write in Phil Lyman. Do not vote for Governor Cox, because if you do, you're voting for everything he's just talked about.
That's right.
Okay? And if you got elected, it's a long shot. I know it is, but I'm throwing everything I have behind your campaign. And I want everybody in the state of Utah, anyone has an influence in the state of Utah, to write in Phil Lyman for governor in the governor's race in 2024. If we could pull that off, it would be such a miracle. It would be like Trump winning.
Yeah.
It would be equal to that because, dude, they already had like Hillary's campaign winning celebration printed.
It's a miracle.
They had the party invitations printed.
Yeah.
It was a miracle.
It was a miracle.
So miracles can happen.
They happen regularly. So, yeah.
Okay. Are you a spiritual man?
Yes,
Do you talk to God about all these issues?
I do.
What do you feel spiritually that he thinks about your efforts?
Well,
Do you feel that warm feeling inside for your battles that you fought? Do you feel like you're doing the right thing spiritually? That's a heavy question. If you don't want to answer it, don't answer it.
no, I mean, I do.
I'll answer it first. No, I got a long ways to go. God's not happy with me at all. But I try. I'm an imperfect vessel.
I will tell you the night before I left jail, and I was not anticipating this. I was not. I'm not like a, on my knees praying for direction type person. I'm a doer, and
Okay.
I want God to be. I want Him to have my back, and I have His back. I'll stand up for
That's how I feel,
Christ
too.
at any time, anywhere.
Praise God.
And you live your life, and you say,
Yes.
if I make a mistake, I'll repent, and I'll keep. But
you admit it and move
so
on.
I'm doing a seminar here in a month or so. He says, "What's the title?" And I said, "Cease to equivocate." God wants us to be bold, not just to be good, but to be bold. So be bold. And he said that. I mean, Christ said that. I don't want lukewarm. If you're hot, if you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out. Be hot, be cold, be something. Anyway, so the night before I left jail, I had a spiritual dream, a real spiritual dream. That's what I was instructed: cease to equivocate. And I didn't even know what the word meant. And when I was, what does that word even mean? So I focused on it for going on 10 years now. What does that mean to cease to equivocate? And it's like, don't play the middle. Do not be in the middle. So.
Right there. Right here. Flag. By the way, this flag was flying in front of my house, and I had to take it down as a backdrop. Only the highest production values, ladies and gentlemen, in the Nothing Fancy project.
It's a beautiful flag.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring levity into what was a very excellent, spiritual, real point.
Yeah.
So that answers the question. This is how I think. So someone comes, well, you can't go to another man and go, well, I'm going to tell you what God told you. I don't think that's fair to do.
No.
I think if a man says, listen, God has told me this in my life. I feel like I have a relationship with God. I know everybody in this room does. Sometimes we're at odds with God because we're imperfect. We do stupid things. We have to repent, as you mentioned. We admit fault and we get better. But you can't go to another man and go, oh, that didn't happen. And yet in our society, that's what happens all the time. They will impugn whatever spirituality you have. They'll impugn your relationship with God and Jesus. And I'm sorry, that comes from Satan.
Yeah.
Flat out.
And it comes back to that personhood. If I really believe that I am an individual capable, then I have to believe that you are an individual capable of your own decisions. I get this. So I was the only legislator to vote not to censure Natalie Klein. And it's like, why would you? It's like, I don't censure people. That's not my job. It's not the job of the legislature. And same thing when people say you need to call back your supporters on social media. Number one, most of them are not connected to me. They're just talking. It's like just exactly what you're saying. That's not my lane. I wasn't called to censure the internet. Or whatever that looks like.
As if you can control it.
As if you could control it in the first place. And then why would you ever want to pretend that you have some sort
Hold
of
on.
authority. Yeah.
Let's lift up the cover on this effort,
Yeah.
and I will tell me if I'm wrong. It's not about controlling the internet. It's not dispelling this people. It's about undermining you. Because when you have compromised in front of your supporters, they'll say, aha, we got you. You just...
It is a dog
what's the weather?
world, yeah.
Equivocated?
Yeah,
You just equivocated. But isn't that what God expects of us? And I was going to say this point too, is that I think in the state of Utah, this is one of our huge downfalls, is that we have a lot of LDS folks here, good people, but I think in a lot of ways, a lot of these people think that God will fight their battles. And yet, if we read in the Book of Mormon, we read in the Bible, it didn't really happen that way. Last time I checked, when David slew Goliath, it wasn't an angel that did it. He did it. Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned several times the importance of individuality. I'm a huge fan of that. This is what I push in my project, is we are individuals. And you know what? God will empower us with the tools and the doorways we have to pass through, to have bravery to pass through them, to be victorious. But how about the stripling warriors in the Book of Mormon? Did angels just swoop down and fight those battles for them? Or were they swinging some swords?
Trained and in
Yes.
shape and fit. And,
Faithful.
Yeah.
God won't
Scared.
fight our battles. And yet people in the state of Utah think, well, I just need to cut my hands. I need to go to church every Sunday and everything's going to turn out. And there's a lot of messages, I think, and you've mentioned some in the Bible and in the Book of Mormon that say it won't turn out that way. You need to wake up and you need to battle. One of them in the Book of Mormon, I think, says, woe unto those that say all is well in Zion, that we have nothing to fear, that everything's fine, just relax. If we get punished with a few stripes in the end, we're fine. Does that ring true now, Phil? I got you.
Is that my phone?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Does that ring true now, though?
Yeah.
Do you feel like overall, as a state, that a lot of people are just like, everyone's making a big deal about what's going on. It's no big deal. Just, I got a golf game to go to. Is that going on?
Yeah. Philosophically now.
Philosophically, symbolically, we're talking.
You know, I was thinking about the people love the movie Braveheart. You know,
Yeah.
William Wallace, he makes a stand,
Love that movie.
and in the end, he dies. You know, and
Doesn't make a difference.
and the government goes back. Joan of Arc, she, you know, driven by God to do, you know, these miraculous things for France, and in the end, they, you know, and so I'm always looking for the stories. Well, where's the one where the good guy wins? And David and Goliath is a really good one. It's like, and there's lots of other good ones. America is a story of people who took on impossible odds, and they changed people's lives. You know, you and I get to live in
The most amazing place ever.
yeah. Like
Later on, I'm going to go out and fire, I don't know, 30. We're going to fire 90 rounds through an AR-15. God bless America.
yeah, and it is beautiful.
Let's
And
keep
it's-
it that way, by the
yeah,
way.
let's keep it that way. So
let me help you out,
We
though.
are living a success story here.
So funny you should mention this underdog story. For whatever reason, little voice spoke to me and he said, hey, listen, why don't you talk about the two P-40 Warhawk pilots during Pearl Harbor? So here we are, December 7th, 1941. The Japanese are bombing the heck out of Pearl Harbor with great success. The planes are all gathered together on the ramp. The ships are gathered together. We've all seen the imagery. We've seen the movies. The Japanese are going to win that battle. There's no way we're going to be able to field enough planes to prevent what's coming to Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. And yet two guys took off in P-40 Warhawks. Why? Because they're warriors. That's what you're talking about. Their names: Second Lieutenant George Welsh, U.S. Army Air Corps. Second Lieutenant Kenneth M. Taylor, U.S. Army Air Corps. I think the movies accurately represent they were in civilian clothes. I think they were out partying the night before. And they're like, we're getting attacked. They're like, to the plane we go. Yeah, but you're outnumbered 5,000, not 5,000, but hundreds to 2.
Yeah.
We're launching. That's how you need to be. Watching this video. You're going to write in the candidate. You're going to be politically active. You're going to vote. Okay, it wasn't like these two, how would this be? And this is how I feel a lot of people are politically, especially conservatives, air quotes, that Lieutenant Welsh, Lieutenant Taylor, they look up in the sky and they see the Japanese Zeros flying by, but the torpedo bombers, and they go, I ain't taking off, dude. There's no way we're going to get shot down. What difference can we make?
Yeah. What difference would it make?
What difference do we make? Dude, let's go back to the cot. They've got AAA firing over there. This is to your point, is that for our spiritual integrity, we are going to fight to the end. Always. Shugart and Gordon, Black Hawk down. They're hovering overhead. Black Hawk shot down, being swarmed with Somalis. They requested 3 times, I think it's 3 times, we want to get inserted. Command and control came back negative. We have no way to extricate you. They said, please let us in. They go, you realize this is a one-way trip. And Shugart and Gordon went down. Medal of Honor winners, knowing they were not coming out because they were going to defend that crew. This is the level of bravery, the level of excellence, and the level of integrity I think our Father in heaven expects of us, and that when we get to the other side, they'll say, well done, my good and faithful servant. You stood up against evil when no one else would.
Well, that's life. It's like,
yes.
Why would you want to come and miss that opportunity? It's like, what would you... Yeah, we are eternal, and to go back and say, man, I was right there, and if I'd have gone back to the cot, what a shameful.
Are you glad you're born in this era?
Yeah.
As difficult as it is.
Oh yeah.
Do you think you were saved for this era? Do you think in the pre-existence that you said, hey, this is what may happen to you, and you go, I'm down, send me. Do you think that happened? Is it possible?
It's possible, and I'm grateful. I will say that I'm grateful for.
I think you were forced here. I'm just kidding.
I'm grateful for everything that's happened, and
that's a mature perspective, my friend.
Going to jail, all of that stuff. It's like
you got cred with the street now. That's for dang sure.
No, I didn't get the teardrop tattoo, but I was close. You know. You do what you're supposed to do. I guess it's duty, you know. And your military stories, honestly,
Lyman.
Yeah, your military stories always. Those do get me because those are people, and I've heard people say, they did that out of love. It's like, no, it's their job, it's their duty. They knew they had to.
They didn't have to do it. By the way, those 2 lieutenants in Pearl Harbor got the. I want to make sure I say it right. I think the Distinguished Service Cross. Yeah, Distinguished Service Cross, the second highest U.S. military award for extreme valor.
So beautiful. Yeah.
And then it says they went back to their cots and passed out from a drunken stupor. I would not doubt they were hungover at all. Dude, anyways.
Yeah, and they changed. They changed.
But I love that example. All these examples are right in line. And people, I have made videos to my project many times. The guy's like, well, I'm not even going to vote. I'm like, please vote. It's a cheap way. And these are guys that sometimes will even espouse, well, we need to go to civil war. I'm like, no, we don't. You don't know what that entails. Please, cool your jets. Let's save our political process. Let's save this great country we have. Let's save the Constitution. It's doable. But these people, I call it the big parabola in the middle of the voters. You have people on maybe the far right, the far left, but the big parabola is what we need to wake up.
Right.
And we need to talk in a manner that connects to them.
Right. And in elections, it's 50%, right? You get 50% plus one.
Yeah. You win.
You win. So the going to the honest observers and saying, maybe 4 years ago we weren't quite there. Maybe we were, and the elections were stolen. That's what that concerns me. But if we weren't quite there, I think we have moved that fulcrum a little bit, and I think we are there. I think people are waking up, and as soon as they start to open their eyes, then they're like, they either close them really quick because I don't want to see this, or they fly wide open. And
we have family members. That's why I'm pointing Mrs. Nut and Fancy in our family. They're like, la 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 la. I don't want to know. I don't know. Oh, by the way, I got a good lake and party.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I rail on her. I was like, listen, in so many ways, like, you need to wake up. And it's funny because it's these people that if they are choosing poor information sources, like KSL, excuse me. There's some dust in here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Bless you.
But if they choose those impure information sources, it's amazing how resilient they are to facts.
Oh yeah.
Like, you can show them facts and you can say, well, this happened, this. Like, I've told people your story. And this is before the vote. And I said, listen, do you know Phil Lyman? This is what he went through. This is what he stands for. He's for states' rights. And I could tell they're kind of leaning back because they're kind of like, okay, another kook. Because they're brainwashed by their media sources.
Yeah.
How do we get through that?
Well, it's fun. Number one, it's fun to get involved. And I think people are looking for, they do want to get involved in the epic battle. When's the epic battle going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of an epic battle right now.
It
is kind of epic, and you can get involved. And I'm not giving a political speech at all. It's really
You're giving a citizen speech.
Yeah. My aspiration is not to be the governor. My aspiration is to
We understand that.
get the governor out who's cheated to get there. Whatever, it's for Utah. It's fun and
Phil, I respect
honestly,
the heck out of you, bro.
People do love it. People have really
I respect the
resonated.
heck out of you.
Oh, thank you.
I really do. We need to have you in there. And by the way, if you win governor, I ain't charging you a damn dime for this interview, but I want to be the czar in charge of Ice Cream Wednesdays. Deal?
All right.
Ice Cream Wednesdays.
Okay, Ice Cream Wednesdays.
Okay,
all year long.
How do we, let's say you're the governor, how do we help struggling families in the state of Utah? So struggling financially. And this is one of the things that really irritates me about Kamala, what she's saying now. She's like, well, we're going to do this. We're going to grow jobs. We're going to grow the economy. I'm like, hey, moron, your party's been in charge for many years and you've done none of those things. In fact, you've made it much worse. Is there a way we can help families in the state of Utah? I have an answer, and it's free market capitalism. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Creating jobs.
I mean, Ronald Reagan said government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem.
That's correct.
And one of my favorite quotes that I've lived by for years is Adam Smith. The only thing required to take a society from barbarism to opulence is peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice. Everything else coming about in the natural course of things. Well, we left the peace, easy taxes, and tolerable administration. That we passed that exit way back. So government, to be a conservative is like, I want things to stay how they are. It's like, we got to get pretty assertive in bringing it back to what it should be, which is let people innovate, live their lives. Utah has such natural
it's a beautiful
resource
state.
Wealth, yeah, and we're sitting on top of.
I rank it easily in my top 30.
Yeah.
Top 5. Yeah. California is amazing. Geographically, California
it is amazing.
Insane.
And I loved it. A young kid got up and said, and I'm tired of everybody ragging on California. I love California. Let's fix it. It's like, yeah, let's fix it.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's move out the Gavin Newsom ideology and bring in some free market ideology and let people live their life.
We need to wake up that huge section of voters if that is going to happen at all. Now, I tend to be...
I do.
I love it, but I tend to be a realist in terms. Let me talk to this. Is like, let's say Trump were to win. Okay, so Trump wins. I've told my viewers in a video I posted on Rumble, subscribe to Rumble, be a donor down below. There you go. Go to his website. Donate to Phil Lyman. He's going to need money for an idea I have. I'm going to...
LymanForUtah.com.
Okay, LymanForUtah.com. Even if you're outside the state of Utah, this, again, would have huge ramifications in a positive way if he were to get into office. So, support. And I forgot what I was saying. It was something important, though.
It was really important.
It'll come to me later,
Sorry,
though.
I forgot to.
But free market, making jobs is how I think you solve that. So if I were to ask a Democrat that, they go, well, we need more government programs. We're going to get more people on the government dole. And that's not the answer. If you go to South Central LA, there's been millions upon millions of dollars spent for social programs there, and it's just as bad as it's ever been. Detroit, same way. Chicago, same way.
Downtown Salt Lake.
Money does not solve it. Downtown Salt Lake, it does not solve it. What solves it is people picking themselves up, getting a sense of pride in themselves, becoming self-sufficient. That helps.
Well, in Utah we do have big hearts, and when we talk about like the homeless problem, you try to solve that with programs, and you just feed it. It's turned into industry.
It's a big problem.
It's a big problem, and it's a big industry. A lot of people making a ton of money off of homeless industry. Take the money out of that, the government incentive for it, and you would see the homeless problem diminish greatly. we'll always have the poor with us. That's what Jesus said.
So Rudy Giuliani became the mayor of New York City, and they had a huge crime and homeless problem, and then he was in, it went away.
Yeah.
So whatever policies he enacted at that time, we kind of need that.
Yeah, take away the incentive.
And people in the state of Utah also need to wake up and visit downtown Salt Lake and see what's going on down there, because that's what's coming perhaps throughout your entire state.
It is a blue state problem, and San Francisco has it, Los Angeles has it, all the blue states
In
have it,
spades, they
and
have
Salt
it,
Lake
yeah.
has it because
Yep.
it's run by
Democrats.
By Democrats.
Oh, do you want me to say it?
Yeah.
Democrats. Sorry.
Bless you.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Where do you see, if we stay on this track right now, and you're not elected, where do you see Utah in 10 years, especially with all the influx of illegal immigrants, which is happening week to week in the state of Utah, which probably will be blue voters?
Well, in the next 10 years, we'll have the Olympics, which we signed an agreement to get the Olympics. We're going to implement electric vehicles. We're going to implement DEI.
We sold our soul for it.
We sold our soul for it. And I like the Olympics, but that's what
Not
I said.
for that.
That's what I said in the debate. If people understood what the compromise was, they probably wouldn't go for that. So, and Spencer Cox said, "Well, we did a survey, and whether 72%." And I said it was probably a Harris X survey, and then we did a survey just out on if you knew that you were agreeing to these things, how many, and it was like 4% want it if they know what they're agreeing to. It's like, and then we saw the Olympics and the opening ceremonies and all this stuff, and people are like
Making
"What?
fun of the First Supper.
What is this Last Supper?"
Sorry.
But yeah,
New
what
here, I really don't know what I'm talking about.
there had to have been a first, right?
Okay,
There was a
Last Supper. Ooh. I'm sorry. That was, but what I don't want people to do is forget these moments. Like, don't forget what you saw in the opening ceremonies, because people have such a short attention span. Like now, the lessons of COVID, people just act like COVID never happened.
Yeah.
The lockdown never happened. The firing of people from their jobs, no, that never happened. And actually, they're totally whitewashing all the people who have become ill and died from the COVID vax. Mm-hmm. Tons of information. It's not even debatable at this point.
So when you say where are we going to be 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Just look at the last 10 years and where we were and where we've come to. And it's like, do we want to continue down that path? And Spencer Cox he's going to take this as a referendum. He is in charge. This is what people want. They want the government to take care of their housing. They want the government to take care of their entertainment.
15-minute cities.
They want 15-minute. They want sports stadiums. They want investment in Silicon Slopes. They want the government to Utah has now a startup. If you want to start up a business, you don't go talk to an investment banker or to your rich uncle. You go talk to the government now. And
wow.
And if you don't talk to them, you're not their chosen person. You're not they're not going to pick you to be one of the winners and losers. And I don't know. Utah is a leader nationally in these woke.
I agree with that.
Yeah, elevate Utah stuff. Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they went to the opposite extreme to show, hey, look at how inclusive we are. Look at how awesome we are. Everyone thinks we're closed-minded, we don't listen. And they went to the extreme of all these initiatives, the DI, which stands for did not earn it, by the way. Sorry.
So yeah, where we'll be in 10 years, I think as a nation, Utah would be a much better place. If I were elected governor, I think it would affect Idaho. It would affect Nevada.
It would. It would embolden people.
The public lands thing is like we don't need to be second class.
Yeah.
A second class state.
The Western states would take up and stand notice.
Yeah,
you'd be the leader of the Western states.
Well, I don't know. I don't aspire.
The reluctant leader.
Yeah,
I know you don't aspire. That's why you're the right person.
It's like do it. We could do it.
Yeah.
The American experiment is right there in front of us, and it's like Utah could. We could.
It would be.
It'd be fun.
Amazing.
It would be amazing.
It will be amazing.
It'll be amazing.
Well, let me ask you. So you talked about all the stipulations to host the Olympics. How is it that people in Utah don't know how we sold our soul to get the Olympics? How is that not covered on all the news stations? I suspect, I don't watch mainstream media, but I suspect it wasn't covered. And if it was done so quickly and superficially, it would be an easy miss. How did they not know that?
I don't know. It was not covered, and if it is covered, it's it's more like castigating somebody who says that they're not for the Olympics. Oh, please. Another conspiracy theorist.
There we go.
You know?
He probably wants to see a signature too.
Yeah. But if all you have to do is look at the Olympic Organizing Committee's document and you say, well, we don't. Surely we would never sign that.
Yeah.
If the Olympics is being used to force us to do something, we would never agree to do. And
here we've signed it.
So, yeah, we've signed it, and it wasn't covered, and it was touted as
Brushed under the carpet.
And who is pushing it? Who wants it? I really don't know.
Well, again, you have such
Developers,
a naiveness in the populace where all they hear is Olympics. Oh, yeah. Now, my wife sitting right there, she'll curse, and sometimes harshly, about the Olympics being hosted in our state. And I'm against it, too, because I think it brings more high-density housing, more traffic problems, more crime, and more things we don't need. Let us grow normally, organically in the state of Utah. And last thing we need, because I think that the 2000 Winter Olympics is what we hosted.
2002.
2002, yeah.
I was here.
We were kind of saying that then. We're just like, let's not advertise the state of Utah. Let's just keep it to ourselves because no good thing's going to come of it. And here we are 22 years later and no good things come of it. I'm sorry. I wish I had something better to tell you.
Yeah, and Mitt Romney liked it the last time, and I think he's kind of behind this one. And you've got that, the organization, the cabal that's saying we have deemed that Utah will have the Olympics, so start messaging, and they do, and they go to it, and the mainstream media snaps right into position, and the narrative is everybody wants the Olympics, and anyone who doesn't is a conspiracy theorist.
Yep.
So,
do you think since Cox talks so effeminately and soft-spoken, he comes across and people think he's something he's not in the state of Utah? I do. That I think they listen to him speak that, oh, that's a man of God.
oh man,
Are people that easily fooled?
I don't know. That's
I'll answer it. Yes.
Well, I've seen him confront.
That's not Phil, that's me.
and he
I
gets
said that.
angry.
He gets
Like,
angry.
grits his teeth.
Yes.
He's like cursing. I've seen
You'll
it.
see the real Governor Cox come out in unprotected moments when he has his guard down and you see anger. Didn't you see that at the convention too? What did he say, Todd?
Well, he was just lashing out at us. He's like, are you upset or mad that because I did this and did this? Like, I mean, the one big...
Wasn't he insulting the delegates?
Oh, very much
Yeah.
so. We booed him. hard.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Still gonna win.
just hate that I don't hate enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
You're just like,
Yeah, it
and his smile was not a smile. It was like a
Grimace.
grimace.
It's a grimace.
It was an ugly scene. I couldn't understand most because I'm standing backstage, but I'm just sitting there and like my jaw's like hanging open. It's like this is the people you want to vote for you in the next round.
And he's offending
He
them.
was dismissive of us.
So
And
dismissive.
our votes
He's saying he's
matter.
if you
That's
can't
what
hear
he said.
Todd.
He said
Yeah.
I'm going to win anyway.
See, that's the thing is that the arrogance of it is that I don't care if I have your support or not. I know I'm going to be governor. Isn't that kind of frightening? That you're like, whoa. So you're saying that the cabal is so strong that you are so confident. And look at what happened with the signatures.
Yeah. So
Wow.
two things they won't let us look at. They won't let us look at
Wow.
the signatures, and they won't let us look at the what we call the cast vote record, which is like the ticker tape of the election. We can't see even the election returns.
Yeah.
To say, I want to verify and see if there's any irregularities in this. No, you can't look at it because we did look at them in 2020 and brought up a few things that they didn't want to answer the questions. Rather than answer the questions, they put up billboards up and down I-15 saying, we are the gold standard of elections. Our elections are safe and secure.
So that's, again, propaganda.
It's propaganda. Yeah, there's a word for that.
It's
Yeah.
all is well in Zion. Everybody calm down. Don't listen to Phil Lyman, what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Honestly, and people do win through fatigue. People get tired of contention. It wears people
Yeah.
out.
It doesn't wear my wife out, I'm just saying.
Good.
She's
It doesn't
up
wear
for a
my
good
wife
fight.
out either, and that's
Anytime she's
yeah.
up for a fight.
yeah. I've said
Like,
as a
please,
legislator,
just relax.
yeah, my secret weapon is that I have a spouse who
Your wife is awesome, by the way.
she's a fireball.
She's a rock star.
She would.
I've
run
seen her in
circles around
interviews
me.
like, whoa, she's
Yeah,
cool.
She'd run circles around me, and
Yeah. Do you know of any, and I don't want to get you off guard here, but do you know of any Western state governors that are amazing right now that you would look at and go, oh my gosh, they're getting it done? Or are they kind of middle of the road Republicans, the ones that are? I can't think of any that I go, they're Trump level honest.
No.
Yeah. That's sad. That kind of tells you how this has metastasized through all the states.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a Ron DeSantis fan. I like what Ron.
I love him.
Yeah, I like what Ron has
Love
done.
him.
And he turned, Florida into a red state just because he started, doing conservative things, and so I really like DeSantis. What's Virginia's? Sorry,
Go look it up. I have my informational assistant on it right now.
Yeah. I just wasn't thinking governors, but yeah, there's some good ones. I like Kristi Noem in South Dakota.
Okay.
Admired her through the COVID thing. I've talked to a few South Dakotans who are not so fond of her public lands and standing up for farmers. So hopefully she will do that. Yeah, Glenn Youngkin's been phenomenal.
So there are a couple good ones.
Yeah.
So how awesome would this be? You win, and you and the other awesome governors start turning this country around. That it comes from a state.
Oh yeah.
It comes from a state thing, and that's really.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in rule of law. I love rule of law, and our forefathers had it figured out. I'm a big constitutional guy. Let's do it according to the rule of law, and rule of law is states' rights.
Yeah.
I mean, it was set up that way from our founders. Like, hey, the federal government is just in charge of the common defense, and the rest states. I'm shorthanding that somewhat.
Strong states make for a stronger United States. There's nothing
Correct.
wrong with a governor like Governor Abbott, telling Biden we're going to defend the border. If you're not going to defend it, we're going to defend it ourselves.
Yeah,
and it makes for a stronger United States because we took courage from that. Utah said, well, if Texas can defend themselves against invasion, can we defend ourselves against invasion? The answer is yes. And not only do we have a right to do it, we have a duty to do it. And so, yeah, I love governors that will.
I do too.
Stand up.
And when you get elected, I know you'll do this, but I think if Trump were to get elected, I hope he does this. I'm a big believer in service heals. And what I mean is that you can get so much understanding and win over previously political opposition to you by giving no kidding Christ-like service. That you really, and I think people know when you're genuine. It's not a photo op.
The no kidding.
The no kidding part that you really spend time with, and I think Trump has been that way the whole time, right? I mean, there's so many stories about Trump about not off the radar. It's not covered. He goes and checks up on people. He asks about people. How's your mom doing? He sends money. He calls people that have been on his staff. It's a true caring, and of course they never want to show that because it humanizes Trump, and they want to dehumanize him just like they're trying to dehumanize you. What do you got there, Todster? Oh yeah. Are you seeking endorsement from President Trump, and have you spoken to him, and how can we help that situation? I have him in my cell phone, by the way.
Do you? Okay, yeah, good. I've not spoken to him. I've spoken to his people, and I would love to speak to him.
Do it.
Someone said, "What are you going to do if Trump endorses Spencer Cox?" Because things are talking about the Unity Party and all this stuff, and I said, Donald Trump he's my guy. He's a fantastic president. He reduced the Bears' ears. He'll do it again for Utah, and all I can say is if Spencer's seeking that endorsement, it's about time he comes around. So
President Trump pardoned you.
He did pardon me.
So he knows who you are.
He does, and
you need to get in contact with him ASAP, or I will via my cell phone.
Yeah, I think I am in contact with his people. It's been a mystery to me why it didn't happen.
Show him this video.
Yeah.
All you got to do is show them this video, because this video is going to get published tonight to my donors, and then it'll go live to my other feeds ASAP, right, Todd? Why don't you get in touch with Trump on his behalf? Sorry, Phil.
Thanks, Todd.
I'll tag Don Jr. and everybody else, whoever I can.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to do it. And whoever sees this, get in touch with the Phil Lyman campaign.
I graduated from the accounting program at BYU in '88.
God, you're crusty.
I know, yeah. But I bought Art of the Deal in '87. One of my favorite books. I've loved Trump from the beginning. I've watched him all the way through. I'm a person who genuinely likes Donald Trump. I've
Yeah,
liked
and respects
all of
him.
his shenanigans, everything else that he's done. It's like,
Bring it.
yeah, it's like the guy is living.
Yeah.
He's living large. He was always just living large, and I've always really respected that, and certainly supported him in 2016 and again in 2020, again in 2024. It's my pleasure to speak highly of a person who I genuinely
Agree.
respect. So
Oh, great. We need to have people show up to vote for him as well. I still think they're going to have, I have no statistics to back this up. I can't back this up, but I think a 3 to 5% cheat rate in the national election that they can affect. But if we have enough numbers, they cannot overcome the numbers. They're not going to like do a 20% sway on the vote. They can't do that. I don't care what they try, but it's just me. I have no evidence. Now, in normal times, I would have asked you such governor type questions of, will you protect the Utah military mission in the state of Utah? But I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm a retired lieutenant colonel. I don't really care because we have other things that we need to fight. And that now I think we're in the realm. And if you guys don't know, we have Utah Air National Guard, my unit, KC-135s. We have a Black Hawk and Apache unit. We have Special Forces unit at Point in the Mountain there, Camp Williams. So these are Utah military missions. We have Hill Air Force Base. They bring a ton of money into the state, a ton of jobs in the state. I am all for supporting them. However, I think in these clown days that we find ourselves, that if you're going as a governor saying, hey, we really want to protect this, we don't want to have a BRAC close Hill, they're going to say, cool, more DEI or something along those lines, that they'll put strings attached to it. I just don't know, but I doubt the purity of the process.
yeah, I mean, I will say I have a determination to fulfill our commitment to our servicemen and women,
Yep.
especially our veterans.
Yeah.
Whatever the I'm not brushing up.
I've had this weird boil in this one location. It's your weight. There. I'll address that later.
A country that does
I
not,
think it's service related.
revere its veterans, there's something seriously
Agree.
wrong with that country. So,
Agree.
And Utah, I think we do, and
We've
will.
been very good that way. That's one thing I
think-
can really stand up for Utah. They've been
Yeah.
very pro-military. They've had excellent support for all our military missions. I've never felt like Utah fell short on that ever.
Yeah, yeah.
I think California has, because I've spent time at military bases in California, and I thought they were at odds with the
Well, and it's
military
like-
many times.
It really comes down.
And they
to,
lost those bases, by the way.
Do you really feel it, or are you just doing lip service? And you can tell when a
Yeah.
state's doing lip service because their policies don't back it up. So
Right.
policies have to back it up, and you take care of your veterans, and do it happily and thankfully, and with a grateful heart for what they've done.
I'm going to throw in a plug right now for We Are the People Utah. Is that right? So you guys check them out if you're in the state of Utah. You want a pure information source, what's going on. I follow them on Instagram, We Are the People. They're big fans of yours.
I'm big fans of theirs.
And we need to get you on their channel and get exposure through every media source we can possibly do. And we need to get your name in lights between now and November. And here comes my dumb idea. You ready?
It's a good. I'm not.
Okay, this is what Phil Lyman needs to do. And you guys, if Phil decides he's going to do this, he's going to need money to do it. We are going to fly an air banner behind a Cessna aircraft that says Save Utah, Phil Lyman, write in.
That'd be awesome.
And it's going to fly as much as we have money for.
Just fly that
Up
thing.
and down. Because here's what's going to happen. As soon as that's coming, everybody's going to see it. In Salt Lake Valley, Utah Valley, it will be on the news. They cannot ignore it. You will get coverage.
No, that would be awesome.
And it
yeah.
maybe wakes up that big group of people, say, wait, right in Canada, I thought Cox was our guy. And maybe we start to break into that false information that's in their head. Say, listen,
I love it.
There's got to be a pilot out there that this is what they could do to help out.
okay, if you're a pilot and you have a banner tow type aircraft and you can give Phil a break on your services, contact his campaign.
Let's
I'll put
do
the
this.
number below.
Yeah.
So this is a banner tow effort. Phil Lyman, write-in candidate for governor. And we'll work on those words, what the best, quickest way to get the message across. But it should be towing all the time. We have Class B airspace in Salt Lake. That's, I forget at what altitude it begins, but he would fly beneath Class B according to air regulations and just put out. And I don't, again, I'm spitballing this because I don't know, maybe the FAA would go, oh, it can't be below Class B, but I think it is doable. Man, I don't know the banner tow
I've seen
regulations.
before.
They have?
I've seen banners in the sky before.
Okay, cool.
I have too, but it's been a long time since I've seen one fly in Utah.
Like where there's crowds.
Oh yeah. So they're flying, but Class
Yeah.
B isn't over here. The thing is that Class B for the airport, it'll step down, and I don't know what the regulations are. Blah blah blah. We'll figure that out. But let's see some banners in the air.
Got
That's
BYU,
cheap.
U of U game coming
Yes.
up. So yeah. I think
Yes.
it might be after the election, but that's
Yes. Any parting thoughts, Governor Phil Lyman? Remember, I'm the star of Ice Cream Wednesdays.
Okay.
And I have one other tiny favor to ask. When you're governor, can you authorize full lane splitting for motorcycles?
Is it not already?
We have lane filtering, not lane splitting.
Oh.
You have to only do it at red lights.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Done for you. It's done.
Yes. Thank you.
Forget what the legislature has to say about
Hey,
this.
listen, if you're going to take too much political heat, don't do it. But man, it's been really fun talking with you.
It's so good to talk to you too.
Yeah,
I'm a fan, a new fan of yours.
Yeah.
I love the
Just to
love the
goof on
reviews that you
YouTube.
do and the guns and
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But at the heart of all that is what we've been talking about. A love of
Yeah,
God, a love
it
of
is.
Jesus Christ, a love of those principles, free agency, because that's what's under attack more than anything. Individuality, that's under attack. That you're not an individual, we'll control you, we'll tell you what to do, what to say, where to go, when you can go there. All this is part of what you've been talking about and what you're fighting against.
Yep.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Phil Lyman, thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you. Think the world of you.
It's great being here.
All right.
Yep.
Take care, guys, and go to his website. Again, I'll have that information below. The website, or his phone number will be below too. Contribute to his campaign. We can do this. It would be an awesome, awesome thing to get him in office. Thank you. Signing off.